Hello, my name is Sarah Cherney. I am originally from United Kingdom, was born there and did my schooling there, and came to Croatia about 20 years ago, and started to work at the Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities here in Rijeka. Bilingual, so I speak English and Croatian. Also speak French, but I wouldn't say I was completely fluent in French. I have one son who is 8 years old. In my household, we speak English and Croatian. I speak English with my husband, and I speak English with my son, and my son and my husband speak to each other in Croatian. I think that perhaps English might slightly dominate, not too much, because I'm speaking with my husband in English as well as my son, so I'm speaking in two, and they're only speaking in one. So I would say that English but slightly dominates. We thought a lot about it because we weren't very sure exactly what would be the best for him, so it wouldn't be confusing. So we very purposefully chose to speak in this way, so that I'm speaking with him just in English and my husband is speaking with him just in Croatian. On a very dear colleague who is a specialist in this area, I took a lot of advice from her, and she suggested that this was the best way. Yes, I think we have. I do feel. Yes, we would do it in the same way. I think it has. At the beginning we were very strict about staying in English and in Croatian, and I can see that especially with me and my son, not with so much with my son and my husband, but with me and my son, we have little slippages where sometimes my husband says we speak like English fumani, because my son will find a word in Croatian which is easier for him to use, so he'll put a Croatian word into an English sentence. Before I was very strict about that, and now I think now he's a little older, we've got a bit more relaxed. I think it's to do with his age that we've become more relaxed over it. I have to say that they didn't really show any attitude, in the sense that they didn't really make any comment about it. At the school, when you fill in the forms at the beginning, when you're registering the child at the school, they were saying, are there any special circumstances? And we did write there that he was bilingual, because we thought it was important that the school knew, but no one's made any comment about it at all. No, I can't say that we did. The support and encouragement came, as I say, from dear colleagues, but not from the systems where my son was. At the kindergarten, I think that they said at one point, they gave some positive encouragement in the sense, they said, well, he's learning 2 languages. At the beginning, he was perhaps a little slower on the uptake. Something at the school which I found encouraging, but wasn't a direct encouragement, was that the teacher said that she wouldn't have realised that he was bilingual if she hadn't already known from us that he was bilingual. So that was, but there's been no direct encouragement or support in any shape or form about bilingualism. One thing that I did hear quite often from people, not from the school but from wider society, was that he should be speaking only 1 language until he's 3, and then he should be speaking 2 languages. Some people were saying, oh no, you're confusing him, this is very bad for him, you shouldn't do this. But as I say, I was very lucky to have support from people who know what they're talking about. Very positive, really positive. People have been really extremely positive. They say it's a very good thing, that they wish their children had this opportunity. So yes, very, very positive. Then there comes the advice, different forms of advice about how this should be done, but which can be perhaps critical, as I just mentioned. But actually, they very positive, I would say. Yeah, there are a number of challenges. The first is, I think that one thing that I noticed, and this isn't from an ex, this is just from a mother observing her child, is that the language acquisition doesn't come at the same time. So you have this moment where I noticed that he was speaking much better in Croatian and his English was quite dreadful. And then you can feel a bit sort of worried about that. But suddenly the English catches up. And then the English gets better and the Croatian is lagging. So it's not, I don't know, I had expected at the beginning that the languages would grow at the same rate, but it seems to me it was coming at different times. That's one challenge, is that not to get worried, you get worried about what's happening there. The second is with friends, I can see that he can sometimes be a bit embarrassed that he's speaking to his mother outside in English. So that when he got a bit older, when he was about 4, that suddenly came in. Now that's changed because he's got older again, and now he's he's proud that he speaks English. But there was a little period where he was feeling a bit ashamed, I think, that we were speaking in English. Connected to that, another little challenge is obviously when I'm speaking with him in English, because we're living in Croatia, if we're with my husband's relatives who don't speak English, that can be awkward because it feels like you're speaking your secret language, which no one else can understand. So there's a social awkwardness there. And the fourth thing, which I still find a challenge, although he seems to be resolving it by himself, is reading. Because the alphabets are very different and how we pronounce the alphabet. So we were very worried about what would happen when he started to read, because of the different pronunciation of the words and the way the words sound together. That was a challenge. But as I say, he sort of resolved it by himself, which was good. I think the main challenge is perhaps the advice, but as I say, I think this is related to child rearing in general. It can be about breastfeeding, it can be anything, but also with bilingualism is all the advice you get from all sorts of different people. And that can become incredibly confusing if you don't have someone who you really knows, which is where I was extremely lucky, because I had someone I could ask who really knows what they're doing. But if you've got a whole lot of relatives all giving different advice, then that can be confusing. I also think that there is, I think it was when he was about 4, that social pressure. Suddenly he's aware that he's doing something different to his friends around him, that we're speaking in English outside in the shops, or I'm speaking in English to him in the park. There's that social awkwardness that he was feeling at that point, which I think is a challenge for parents. Especially if it's not, perhaps English is not, perhaps if you heard a parent speaking to their child in Italian in Rijeka, that would be, it's kind of expected more than when you hear someone speaking to their child in English. It's perhaps not as often. It's vital to me for many reasons. First of all, that he learns the English language, which is important to him, obviously, for future. It's important because I think I can see already he's got what we would say is an ear for other languages. He can pick up other languages as well. And I think it would be, especially in this situation, if I don't know, I feel he has we are very lucky. We have it's very luxurious. All of his friends in his class, lots of them are being sent to foreign language schools to learn English, whereas he's getting it just through life or from home. So I think it's really important. And also the other thing, which he now sees, which is good now he's got older, is because none of my relatives speak Croatian, he understands what a language is for, because he can go and speak with his cousins, all his relatives in England without any problem. And now he understands why, perhaps in those slightly more difficult phases, I was pushing, and because he was saying, well, everyone speaks Croatian here, why do we need to learn English? Now he sees why. So this is really important. I think it's been a positive one. It's had its challenges, and it's had its moments where I thought, oh, really, it was a bit of an uphill struggle. But I think it's been a very positive one. And it's now he's 8 now, so he's not very old, but he's older, and you feel like you've done something good, because you've achieved something, because he's able to communicate in English, he's able to read in English, he's able to write in English. You really feel that he's got something very solid. So yeah, it's been a very useful experience. First of all, is to try and find someone, which again I keep mentioned, find someone who knows what they're doing, who can give advice, because as I say, there's so much different advice, and this can get really confusing to the point where you think, oh dear, let's give up. The second is there will be difficult phases, definitely. That self-awareness about speaking another language, perhaps his vocabulary at some point is less developed than friends, because it seemed at a point, all the moments where one language seems absolutely appallingly spoken and the other one is very good. All those challenges are really worth it. I really can't express enough how worth it is to go through those slightly difficult periods. And as I say, he's 8 now, and already I can see that we've come a huge way. So I think that would be my main advice, is to stick at it, even if it feels difficult. And also I think to start from the smallest age possible. We started the moment we started that way, speaking with him from the minute he was born. And then a lot, it seems to me, I always think it's like sort of organising the little Lego bricks in the head. A lot of that was done when he was very young. And he's now got a really solid foundation. So I think starting early, but that's where the experts will say what's the best. And not giving up, definitely not giving up, for sure, even in those difficult phases.